Welcome, you're at OTR, Over the Rainbow, Achieving Mental Health for Real. This show is about real people battling real mental issues, and experts with tips to help in the battle. If you want to know more, please check out my trailer. Your host is Bob Adelman, and his notes about today's episode follows.
Meet Keith Harrison, a police officer in Canada that suffers from PTSD. He has the courage to tell his story as he's still on his road to recovery, like many of us, which includes myself. Keith is a very brave person who has come out to try to save fellow tier responders, to prevent needless suffering due to the epidemic of first responder suicides. And now Bob with Officer Keith Harrison.
Keith, how are you today?
Doing good, Bob. Thanks for having me on your show.
It's great to have you here. Could you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and why you're here today?
Yeah, I am a police officer up here in Canada in the Greater Toronto area and have been for the last 16 years. My career has been primarily all frontline emergency response, being tied to that radio and responding to whatever dispatch set me to.
You suffer from PTSD. Could you tell a listener a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I just thought it was just part of the job really early on in my career with some post-traumatic stress from a call that really kind of impacted me as a young officer, as a young father, and how the birth of my 3 kids. It was a call involving an infant's death at the time when my ex and I were expecting our first. And I didn't quite get the support that I hope nowadays officers are getting. Seems that, things are slowly turning to getting the support after a traumatic call. I didn't have anything. I broke down, be able to talk to somebody about my feelings, but it was quickly kind of told me that I had a job to do to get back in there.
I'm sorry, what year was this?
Early 2007. And it's just something that, it wasn't really discussed with me. We didn't really have, the peer support that is out there now that I'm finding that's available to officers. Hopefully that's being more accessible and more taken with compassion, that if somebody wishes to reach out to a resource. And the stigmas that were when I was going on, and rather than talk about things, just take you to a bar or take you to the back parking lot and drank.
When the problem started, did you know that it was PTSD?
No, I did not know what the hypervigilant meant. I didn't know what the panic attacks were, the unable to sleep at nighttime because if I fell asleep, my daughter would die. The nightmares, the reviewing of the call, the guilt, the shame, a lot of the blame that I put on myself because I was the first one on scene, so I was the one that should have done more or done something different, replaying that.
I'm sure you did everything you could.
And I've been blessed with having the ability to take time away from work to focus on my recovery, to focus on my mental health, so that I've been able to, with really fantastic support and guidance and counseling, really rework that traumatic event.
You do EFT or EDMR therapy?
Yeah, so I did a lot of timeline and cognitive behavioral therapy with my doctors and my occupational therapist, doing exposure to different venues and areas in which I was avoiding.
What areas are you talking about?
Areas of my division, locations of calls, bridges was one of the big one that I was dealing with because I did have an encounter where I was put in a position where I rescued a young suicidal female off a bridge, and there was a lot of, even though it was very successful, we got her help. There was a lot of replaying of me getting pulled over that bridge, just a lot of things negatively that I put associated to that call that I needed to work out, because if I was ever in a position again in a scenario like that, I felt that it would have been me falling to my death. So my occupational therapist, very beneficial. It was very beneficial to me and part of my recovery.
So how are you doing today? Are you in a much better place?
Gosh, Bob, there's parts of my day that I can feel that I'm on top of the world and at a state of gratitude and joy that I didn't ever think was possible in my lowest of lows. I even have times where I can reflect in a healthy way on very manic states of depression and very fueled PTSD triggers, and how I talk to myself, because we all unfortunately have this ability to talk the worst to ourselves than anyone else could ever talk to us. And I just, can't believe that sometimes that was me, because I don't really even identify with that person anymore because of my traumatic growth and where I am now. And I'm very, very fortunate and blessed to have had the people around me to listen to myself fully in a way where I was not letting that one demon that would tell me regularly to end it all, that I was listening to others because they saw something in me and they were going to be around as long as it took in order for myself to see what they see in me. So super, super fortunate.
I always talk about my demons, the little voices in your head that tell you that you can't do things. I fight that every day, but I believe that the first step for everyone is to admit they have a problem, to step forward and admit they need help. I think if they hear stories like yours, I think it'll maybe motivate them to come out and help themselves. Don't be ashamed. Let's break the stigma. It's important that everyone starts to heal.
Yeah, I know when I was struggling, kind of got told that if you were struggling with mental health, or if you were being crazy, you weren't able to be trusted. You were considered a broken toy. You were kind of sent away from the front line so that you wouldn't be able to infect other people with what you were going through. I know when I was at my lowest, there was a lot of negativity, and I was angry all the time, and I was lashing out, and it was just me crying out for help in ways that I didn't know what to do other than come out and say it. But then I figured, well, if I came out and said it, then I'd be committed to a hospital. So one of the positions I took when I was kind of getting back into work from my time off, I kind of wanted to showcase what a healthy Keith Harrison is to other officers, to my colleagues who knew me when I was struggling, and when they re-saw me when I returned, they instantly knew something's changed. Hey, I don't know what's going on with you, but you look good. You sound awesome. What have you been doing? And I just took that position to okay, I'm going to be somebody that is going to be open with their struggles, because I know I can feel it and see it in other officers.
I think people struggle with this, getting past the stigma that other people might put on it. But I think it's braver to step up and help yourself and help others around you. I think that's the braver thing to do. I think that there's a lot of conflict between the police and civilians, and I don't believe it has to be like that. I think if everyone would address their own issues, that together we could create a much better society. Anyone who even has a little problem should seek counseling. I mean, did they have a counselor that you could go see at any time, or they don't have anything like that?
Yeah, so I'll echo everything you're saying there of all the good that officers need to do as far as taking care of themselves, and how the yield in which the benefits to the community and to the public would be if we have officers that are working at optimal levels, physically, mentally. I was fortunate to get some access to an organization that helped me find my doctor, and outside the service, I know the service did or does have EFAP programs, but with my struggle with the sanctuary trauma, moral traumas from the the service and the compassion fatigue that I had, I didn't really trust my organization, my service, to have my best interest, because when I was asking for help, I was always getting told, now is not the time. We need you to kind of push forward. We need you to keep going. We can't lose you. I can't give you away for free. I can't let you come off the road. There's all these uses of officer staffing levels that would prevent any supervisor or management that I would go to that would see me as somebody that was struggling rather than just, a number on a sheet, on a stat line. So there is an organization up here in Canada called Canada Beyond the Blue. And then right across Canada, there's chapters within different organizations. So OPP, Peel, Durham, York, Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto do have individual chapters. But if you don't have an individual chapter, you can always access Canada Beyond the Blue, and they have phenomenal resources. They have vetted clinicians where you can go and seek in your area. The great thing that they've already been vetted, which means they deal sometimes exclusively with first responders and military. I found, when I was first kind of looking through the yellow pages, and for the guys who don't know what the yellow pages is, that's a big old book of phone numbers outside of Google back in the day. So so when I was looking around, I was really having a hard time connecting with a clinician, connecting with a psychologist, because on top of me trying to get out all my stuff, I was having to explain my jargon that I was using. It's language that to other people, it doesn't make sense. But, to people within first responders community, it's, everyday language. It's like almost like a second language. So when I got connected with Canada Beyond the Blue and got a doctor in my area, it was something that I found really comforting to know that they were really hearing me and understanding what I was saying, and that I didn't have to explain things. And I've been with my doctor for 4 years now. She helped me with all the diagnoses of my PTSD, with workers' comp, when you go off work, having the insurance there so that, I was able to maintain some income so that, my kids would be supported, and got me access to even more programs with Wounded Warriors Canada, which is a group that I peer support with on their trauma programs now, because I share my lived experience from being through what I've been through, and also for people coming on those programs. I have been on those programs, so it's more of a peer support to let them know I've been where they are, and I'm there to help them out at any turn that they need. So I'm always open to talk with officers that I have found are quietly discovering a little bit about me. Because like I said, I'm not making it quiet. I'm kind of putting it out there, and they're kind of coming to me saying, opening up, and I'm helping them with anything they need. So whether it be just, finding a doctor, being able to just focus on themselves, if that's stepping away from work completely, just kind of being a presence where they feel that they can be heard. So pretty passionate about everything that I'm decided to do, is be that person that I needed 10 years ago. I want to be that for somebody else.
A lot of people that I talk to on this podcast want to help people because they don't want them to suffer like they did. Because I think it's important that we concentrate on the problem and help each other. It's about time.
Yeah. So it's a mindfulness that I take every day. I say I have lived experiences. I have living experience with it, because I know what I need to maintain my state of gratitude. Just because I've been through a lot of programs, I've had a lot of healing. I still things piss me off. There's still small triggers there that aren't as big as they were before, but yeah, they cut to my moral core. I feel things. I'm still human. I get sad. I get upset sometimes.
Yes, recovery isn't perfect, and it never will be, and life is hard, but you don't have to live it with an addiction. You don't have to live it unhappy. Recovery will make you happier. That's it. Simple. So whether it's a medicine or EDMR or some other therapy for PTSD, that's what you have to do right now. Suicide's not an option, because then you hurt the ones you love. I don't think you want to do that. So if you're thinking of doing that, go to the 12-step meeting, go to your doctor and ask for medication or whether you need it, and most importantly at all, get some counseling. Keith, is there any place in the U.S. that's similar to these Canadian places that you're mentioning?
Yeah, I'm learning more and more about agencies and organizations in the States. I know it's a bit for me to digest because with different states and federal and local, there are some organizations, I'm looking at more like national levels, but I would encourage anyone who is in law enforcement or first responder, uniform and civilian, that people not be aware of the amazing civilians that work in first responders that are so essential to the success of members in uniform. You ever want to reach out and I'm able to kind of help in navigating some searches and some organizations to help you out, I'm there. We have fantastic organizations and services up here north of the border that are peer support led. They're boots on the ground. An organization that is a 24-hour mental health hotline for first responders that are manned by peer support to help navigate any questions, feelings. Everyone's trained. They're awesome individuals, all peer led. It was started by a police officer, I believe, in the Peel region of Toronto. But I think that, there's 7 billion people in this world that just want to wake up every day and be happy. At the end of the day, that's all anyone really wants to do is be happy. And I feel that there's so much fear of belonging and accepting that people fear that if they're not living their true, authentic self, whether it be, exposing who they are, their likes, their dislikes, their traumas, their feelings, that there's going to be somehow, casted and rejected. And what I've found is that when you really show somebody and you're vulnerable, showing a person or meet people and you show complete vulnerability in exposing what you're feeling, that is, you're gained with like the most acceptance that I feel I've ever had, because there's somebody out there that has the mask on just like you, that's trying to hide it away, not feel that they can feel comfortable letting other people know. Because when I first kind of took time away, I had guys calling me up, calling bullshit, wanting to meet up with coffee just so that they could look at me to see if I was like faking or if I was like putting one over, or they didn't believe me. Or, when I did talk to guys, they're like, man, I don't know how to talk to you. Like, I just feel like I'm on a call. And I just like, I'm your friend. Like, don't talk to me like I'm on a call. Just talk to me like how you'd want to be spoken to. A lot of guys just had that personal connection, that they felt that because it was a personal connection that they could not, step into that armor of policing that we do at times, where we like to distance our emotion as a coping mechanism. Because a lot of times, you kind of have to distance your emotions.
I call that covering up the real pain. I think a lot of people do that. People that are addicted to substance abuse and all that, they're doing that. I don't know how many people with my problem could survive the way I did. I had a lot of resilience and I kept getting off the mat. But other people probably give up and they do drugs, and this is why we have problems. And I think there has to be a much more awareness of mental health in everyone, because at the end of the day, everybody, like you said, wants to be happy, and they don't know how. They don't know what happy is. It's not money, I'll tell you that. It's having the belief that you're okay, that you're validated. And for me, I suffered for years with ADHD, and I'm like, okay, I'm just a weirdo. I don't know why I'm so strange. And then I discovered through a couple of people, and then with the groups on social media, there's a million people out there like me, exactly like me. They're just not the majority. So you don't know how much that helps a person when they finally can say, I did the best I could under the circumstances, and that, I just feel that people need to do that. They need to get help when they need it. And, this sounds like a great program that you have. Do you also have other, like a website or anything like that?
Yeah. So part of my dedication and my commitment when I was returning to work, I wanted to be a part of the change for mental health for first responders and highlight organizations and services and programs so that now that I have acquired tools, I'm not going to keep them to myself. I'm going to, help others with them because my whole job is to help strangers and people in the community that I may never ever see again. Why am I not going to then take those same, tools that I've learned to help myself, to help my friends, my colleagues, people that are going to be doing the job just the same as me and not having to struggle. So I started an apparel company with its brand focus being for first responders and opening the conversation of mental health and acceptance and eroding stigmas associated to mental health. So I thought of different ways I could creatively express that. So I came up with the creation of Tier Response Apparel Company. Tier Response being driven from the dispatch call that requires multiple emergency services to attend a scene or a call. I am taking mental health as that call, as that scene, and I feel that if all emergency services collectively together as a tier respond to that, I've always had very much success coming to successful conclusions of investigations and calls. Acting in a tier, doing the lone wolf stuff is good for a period of time, but humans, we weren't designed to be lone. We're tribe mentality. We're supposed to be a part of belonging to a group. So my tier is always open for anyone who wishes to join, with the focus that it's to highlight and support mental health for first responders. And I donate portions of the sales of the apparel to Wounded Warriors Canada, an organization, again, that I benefited from receiving trauma programs and services that, again, give back as peer support so they can help fund their programs. And the programs are not just for individual members suffering, they're for their family members, so spouses, couples, their kids. They have warrior camps, children of law enforcement and first responders. My kids have seen and heard a lot of my struggles and not really known how to process it. So they have fantastic child clinicians and counselors there to help the kids so they can understand, why are mom, dad the way they are because of the effects of work.
How old are your kids?
My oldest is 15.
Oh, boy.
And I got two birthdays coming in a matter of 7 days. So my little guy turns 7 on Wednesday.
Okay.
And my middle daughter turns 13 on the 5th of July.
Oh, 13. Wow. So if you had to say one thing, if there's a person out there that doesn't really want to come forward with their problems, what would you say that first responder that thinks they can tough it out and that they should be macho and all that?
Yeah, that's one thing with, getting anyone any sort of support is that you can never be forced, because there was times that if assistance and support was forced on me, I probably would have told you to go pound salt. I wouldn't have accepted it because you have to be a willing participant. If somebody is out there to listen to your show and they come across this, I want to let everyone know, that person know that you are so worth the commitment to yourself, and that regardless of what their brain is telling them, because our brain in trauma with mental illness talks an extreme amount of shit to ourselves, like so much crap. My brain spoke to me and told me that I was worthless, that I was not worthy, that this world would be better without me in it or on it. Try not to listen to that negative noise, and just know that the trauma that you are suffering from will not be ended if you choose to end your life. It's only going to be past. And that's one thing that I'm committed to, is never passing my traumas on to others. That's the one thing that I thought of in my car the last day that I was working, that I thought that was going to be my only avenue out. I had my note, and they were going to find me in my patrol car. That was going to be me. And I made the decision that I did not want to pass that on to my kids.
Oh, yeah.
That the last memory that my kids would have of me, of my actions last on this earth, would be that. And I feel that getting out there, telling people where I have been, I hope will resonate. And to knowing that you are loved by somebody, whether you think it or not, somebody loves you and it will miss you dearly.
That's an excellent point.
If you choose the negative, and there is an epidemic in this culture of first responders, North America wide, and I'm sure it's worldwide, where we have officers, great men and women, taking their lives, thinking that they're not worthy or they feel that they are less. And I just want to let everyone know that you're worth it, and someone is going to miss you, and that they have been resilient so far in their trauma, in their thoughts. You mentioned earlier, Bob, how you've been through a lot of stuff and you're resilient. My body has taken so much stuff over the years and yet showed up every day for me to push me through my darkest times. And now it's my turn to show up for myself in a healthy way and give back to myself so that I can be a better person for my kids and for the people around me.
Yeah, amen to that. I mean, if we all thought like that, what a paradise we'd be living in. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. You're a great guest. I mean, it's a very important message. I will have this out probably in the next couple of months. I'm a little backed out, but it will definitely get out there. And I thank you so much for taking this time out for such a good cause. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Bob. And if any of your followers and people in your community wish to kind of get in touch with me, I'm always available. I got social media platforms, Tier Response Apparel Company. I hang out on Instagram quite a bit as I build my website. So at TR_Apparel Co. You can learn a little bit more about me. Again, what I'm doing to showcase organizations and services, as well as always check out the apparel, the tier gear that I have for sale again.
Yeah, I mean, you're an inspiration, and I, again, thank you very much for taking time out to help people.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate those kind words. Thanks so much, and keep up what you're doing, because what you're doing is pretty fantastic yourself. So keep doing what you're doing.
I try.
That's all we can do.